Hello, hello. Welcome to Tuesday training. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday training for practitioners. I'm so glad to be here. We have a very exciting topic for today. We're going to talk carpal tunnel. Thanks, everybody, for being here live. Everybody's coming in. Hi. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Lori. Hey, Gary's coming in. Laura Thomas is in the house. Been a second to seeing you. I love it. Len's here. Mike, happy to have you here. Laura's driving. Okay, great. So yeah, keep your eye on the road. Eyes on the road. Excellent. So glad everybody's here. Welcome back to Tuesday training. We have a special request topic, which is perfect from what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. Hey, Gary, we're going to talk carpal tunnel today, which is exciting. It's all exciting. My body's just exciting to me. I was having a little workout this morning with a friend of mine and did a little body working and did a little adjusting, and it's all just very exciting any time of day, no matter where I'm at. I just love the body work. So I don't want to mistakenly say that like carpal tunnel is exciting, because that's definitely not. But it's exciting that we get to talk shop about it, because I have some real insight for you. Carpal tunnel was one of those diagnoses that followed me very early in my career. Like when I was fresh out of massage therapy school, I was working in an orthopedic physician's office, and there were multiple handfuls of patients with carpal tunnel diagnoses. So this particular diagnosis, I would say, hasn't haunted me from the beginning, but it's followed me from the beginning. And the reason I say not haunted is because it just wasn't making sense what they were doing to try to resolve it. And then, of course, I found a better way, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So it shouldn't haunt you either. And just like everything else we've talked about in the body, it's rarely where they think it is. And the remedies online are so like sort of meh, like they don't really, yeah, exactly, Gary, they don't really resolve it. So we're going to dive in today and talk at length about carpal tunnel, where it is. Hey, Perry, good to see you today. Where it is, what we know about it, what's misunderstood about it, and then of course, what to do about it the way we always do here on Tuesdays. So welcome to those of you who are back for the millionth time. I don't know how many, I know it's been several years that we've been here on Tuesday trainings. I don't know how many exact, I should count how many. It's a couple hundred, actually, hundreds and hundreds. I don't know that all of you have been to hundreds, but I know you've been here enough times that it feels like you've been here for hundreds. So for those of you who are here on camera, thank you for being here. I love talking shop with you each week. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Love having you here as well. If you're live here and sort of like peering in the back, that's okay. You can come on camera at any time. You can also use your mic and unmute yourself and ask questions if all you can do is audible right now, if you're in a place where you can't be on camera. Or you can also use the chat if there's some need for you to be quiet right now in the space that you're in. So feel free to join in on the conversation. If you're watching on the replay, hey, yo, glad you're here on the replay. Be sure to like click the thumbs up button so I know that you're here. If you're watching on YouTube, which is where we stream each week, and then the replays, of course, are available for you. I am your host again and still, Gina Schatz, developer of the Schatz method, manual practitioner, movement person before I became a movement practitioner. Now I blend the two, and mostly what I share with you on Tuesdays is where does the anatomy for both lines of the railroad track meet? Oh, that's what we're here to do. Also, working through my method clinically with clients, the goal is to alleviate pain and musculoskeletal symptoms from the source, not symptom and just sort of zhuzh them around and move them to another place. So that's what we do with the Schatz method, and that's always how I'll train you when you meet with me on Tuesday. What would I do about this situation? What do I know about this anatomy? What do I know about when it goes wrong? Doesn't mean that there aren't other opinions out there, but this is what I know works because this is what's worked for me. I've been at this game now 31 years. It's been a long journey, and it's been super fun too. So welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for joining me and participating as you all do. How many of you have navigated carpal tunnel in the practitioner work that you do? How many of you have navigated carpal tunnel? Oh, all of you. Okay, great. How many of you have felt really confident about that, about navigating it and what you did for it? And fewer hands. Okay, like, yeah, well, sort of, kind of. Yeah, great. So one of these, hey, Lauren, I'm glad you're here. One of the questions that I have for you about carpal tunnel is what part of it, and I promise you I'll fill in the gaps, what part of it hasn't felt fully resolved for you or hasn't felt fully like, I got it, I know where this is? Where are the spots for you that you're like, I'd really like to get that filled here today? I want to make sure I think I will fill in the gaps. And I'd love to hear from you. What's been your experience so far navigating carpal tunnel? Anybody want to share? Gary?
Um,
Thought you
I
unmuted.
think
If
I
you caught it.
think I think probably most everyone on the screen today has experienced this, and that is they get some relief from the session,
Mhm.
and then they're back 2 weeks later with the same problem.
Right.
And we are trying to educate our clients as to what changes they can make and
Hmm.
what they can do about it, but it doesn't go away
Mm-hmm.
completely. It's like I fixed
Yeah.
this in 2 sessions and it's gone. No, that hasn't happened.
Right. Yeah, and that is the frustration, isn't it? Like, isn't
Yeah.
it like the Groundhog's Day? Yeah, like I don't like that either. And I never liked it from early on. And so I totally feel you on that one, Gary. It's one of the reasons why I was like, I must resolve this. I cannot face the same thing one more time. Like it's boring, quite honestly. And mostly boring sounds sort of selfish. It means that the person I'm serving, I'm not fully serving them,
Mhm.
and it means that they're experiencing something less than on the planet, which just breaks my heart. Like that's what keeps me up at night. Not whether I'm good, although I like to be qualified, of course, we all do. But what really keeps me up at night is like that person's still navigating discomfort. Like I know what it's like for me when I've had musculoskeletal pain, you get it? I know what it's like for me. Like I've hurt my back before. You guys have heard me say that I injured my back taking care of my senior dog, and I broke a tailbone and I broke a couple other bones. And I remember, they say you don't remember. Oh, I do. I remember maybe not the exact pain, but I remember the thoughts that went through my mind in those moments of like, is this it? Like I'm never going to be able to like dance again or just walk up a flight of stairs without holding on. Like is this really it for me? I remember the feeling that came with those thoughts. I don't want to be complicit to those thoughts and those feelings for clients I'm serving. I want them to know there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this is not where your story ends. That's what matters to me about the sort of Groundhog's Day about it. I say that it's boring, but really there's a heart behind and underneath that feeling of like, I don't feel completely confident that I did this for them. And I know that that's where you guys are too. And so I feel you on that. So as we're navigating through every week, not just this week, as we're navigating through, just keep in mind that if and when you get frustrated or nerve wracked that you're not learning something fast enough, know that it's your heart that's underneath all of that, that's driving it, right? Don't just stick with the frustration or the irritation or the feeling of, not good enough. Don't stick with that. Something drove that. And what drove that was what's underneath that, which is your deep care for people, or you wouldn't have chosen this profession out of the gate. Sometimes we say that and it's like, well, right, obviously, but still, I want to fix things. Stay in the heart space with it. I really believe, I just saw this today, actually, early this morning. Um, the Heart Math Institute, I might sound like I'm being tangential here, but it
No.
actually ties right into what I'm about to go to you with you guys today.
Mhm.
Heart Math Institute, if you haven't already trained with them, or if you don't know about them, go look them up. Find them on Instagram. I trained with them multiple years ago, and they were up to something really big then. They were just putting their science together to actually create tools, which they now have and they're readily available. So I feel like I was like in on the innovative part of things. And they're really up to something, and their science speaks novels. And the idea is that our heart and the energy that emanates from our heart when we're in our heart permeates way more real estate bandwidth than any mental capacity
Mhm.
that we have. The energy frequency is just different from our heart space to our brain. And I love being smart. I'm not poo pooing on knowledge and smarts and being well read at all. Hello, that's why we're here. My invitation is to not get nerve-wracked in your brain about what you do or don't know without also tapping into your heart. Because I believe that when our heart is open and resonant, more things come because it reaches further. So if you're looking for that answer, it'll probably come if your heart's open. It won't come if you're up in your mind. Your mind can't attract as much energetically. And again, heart math has the research to prove all of that about the electromagnetics and all the things. So look them up, and also keep your mind on your heart. Keep your hand on your heart. Keep your focus on your heart while you're learning, while you're with a client, while you wish you had an answer and are looking for an answer. Keep your focus on your heart too, because that's where the answer will always find its way to you quicker. Another interesting tidbit on the heart. Many years past heart math, I was renting an office in a suite, and several of the practitioners there were psychologists and one psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, of course, is also steeped in research and data. And he shared a study with me. We now have empirical data, which means evidence-based. We now have empirical data that proves if you send heart energy to someone else anywhere on the planet, hey, Cheryl, welcome, they will receive that feeling. Doesn't mean they're like, oh, hey, Perry sent me at 12:13 Eastern on, like, it's not, might not be that exact, but we feel energy coming towards us for sure. Now, interestingly enough, I asked him, well, does that mean if you think shitty thoughts about someone, they can feel that too? And he kind of chuckled and he said, well, actually, we can't do research on that kind of study, but it's implied, Gina. And I was like, ooh, okay, got to clean up my thoughts, right? So it goes both ways. And so notice that in all places of your life, of course. If you don't love somebody and you're in the room with them, probably not going to go the best because your energy is filling the room. But more than that, when you're with your clients, if you're racked in your head about your stress about what you do or don't know, rather than heart-centered, I got this and I'm here for good reason and they trust me, it's probably not going to go the way you want it to go, and it'll make it harder for you. So heart resonance for the win. We have empirical data that proves that's where it's at, which absolutely, by the way, does tie into carpal tunnel. And I'll tell you that in a second. Go ahead, Gary. I saw your hand up.
Recently, I've been studying with someone by the name of Richard Gordon, who teaches quantum touch.
Mm.
And of all the, when you talk about get in your heart space, people are going, yeah, but how do I do this? And what does that feel like? And I don't know if I'm doing it right. He teaches you how to do it. So I'm just about finishing a 7-session course with him, Quantum Touch. Anybody really interested in that? This is how you get there fast. He's been teaching it for 40 years, and he too has worked with the heart math people as well.
Great.
So,
well, good plug for him and his program. And also, I'll tell you, there's another way that you can do it without having to take a 7-week course. If you put your hand on your heart and you take a deep breath and exhale and say this, ask yourself this question: what do I wish? Whatever is at the end of that sentence, a wish is only heart energy. I wish I could solve this client problem. I wish I had the answer. I wish I could have a vanilla ice cream cone. I wish, I wish, I wish. That's always the answer from the heart. Brain doesn't wish for anything. Brain's a know-it-all. So there you go. Try that in the interim. Okay, my loves. So let's move on to carpal tunnel. Carpal tunnel also has to do with, oh, Lauren and Gary know each other. Awesome. Lauren, how did you find us here, by the way? Do you want to come off mute and tell us?
I can't remember. I found you online. I was doing research a while ago and have just like been watching your YouTubes and, you know, interested in taking some of your courses, just haven't been able to yet. And today this moment worked, and I thought, and I had a client with carpal tunnel yesterday, and I thought, I'll watch it.
Awesome. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for being here and
Hi,
coming
Lauren.
live so we can share your energy. And how do Lauren and Gary, how do you know each other? You trained together somewhere? No?
Gary,
We lived in the Virgin Islands at the same time.
Oh, wow. Who gets to say that? I lived in the Virgin Islands at the same time as this other lovely being. I heard another one-liner first time in my career last Friday. A client of mine came in. He said, yeah, I kind of messed up my neck a little bit. I go, oh, really? What would you do? He's super physical, does a lot of traveling for a living. He's like, I heard it racing my Ferrari. I'm like, okay, first time ever, that one-liner. And now it's, oh, I lived in the Virgin Islands, back in the day. So I love these one-liners coming in hot off the presses this week. It must be a sign of the times that anything is possible. So that's cool. Our heart space and what we just shared about this lovely resonant part of our being also ties into carpal tunnel. If you were to A, trace meridians, or B, follow chakras, right? So it gets to be one of these places where it could be more than one thing going on musculoskeletally. It could also be more than one thing going on energetically. And we do talk about Eastern anatomy and energy anatomy along with structural anatomy in our Inspired Beyond Anatomy course. I'm going to just plug that right here as our sponsor for today's training. Our Inspired Beyond Anatomy course is head to toe, stem to stern, Eastern and Western anatomy, plus muscles, plus, putting all of it together. It's 21 hours and it's lovely. It's like story time with really thought-provoking quizzes. And right now, our community, our advocates, Lori is one of our advocates, our anatomy advocates, our advocates are hosting a study group for anyone enrolled in our Inspired Beyond Anatomy coursework. And the value of the study group is that not only do you get to have accountability and community and the goodness that goes with it, but you also get to hear from graduates of the mastery program of, SHOTS method practitioners, how they see anatomy and what they do with anatomy. And that's also just an added bonus that we don't typically offer with that course because the study groups are live and held over Zoom, much like this. And so they're scheduled and they don't happen every day of the year. So if that is ringing your bell a little bit, I wanted to make sure that I shared that opportunity with you because again, Inspired Beyond Anatomy is available all year, but the study group is sort of time sensitive. So if you were looking to have that, oh, hey, Lori, thank you. If you were looking to have that experience, now would be the time for that. And let us know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer questions for you about that. Okay, so here we are back again, carpal tunnel and our Eastern and our Western anatomy looped together. I'm going to share more with you now going forward on the Western anatomy. So the Eastern anatomy, we just mentioned the heart resonance, of course, the fourth chakra, our integrity between our internal and external world, and also our unconditional love towards self and others. That's all happening in this area. In addition to the fire element meridians that run almost in the same path line as the nerves that are often pointed at as the musculoskeletal culprit for carpal tunnel. So there's definitely an overlap of Eastern and Western anatomy in this particular diagnosis. Speaking just from the musculoskeletal perspective right now, though, what do you guys know about that diagnosis from a Western perspective? What do you know about the carpal tunnel diagnosis? Happy to have you here, Joshua and Len. Glad I saw you guys pop in. What do you guys know here about the carpal tunnel diagnosis? And if you don't actually know, Lauren, you're pointing.
Oh,
you got something?
Am I still unmuted?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't remember the name of the ligament that across here, but a lot of tension in that ligament will then create more of that contracted shape within the hand that will pinch, all the nerves just passing through right there.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. You're going to say more?
Well, just people who do a lot of gripping, holding, their hands are more continuously in that contracted position too, or, like typing and things like that, then the fascia, the ligament, everything just becomes less pliable. And then, and I saw the woman I saw yesterday, she was a paralegal for 35 years. So, so much typing and literally her, she was so tense through here and the metacarpals, the carpals will really like at a very strong angle, had like really adjusted to be at a very strong angle. And you could just see just that shape that the hand had taken, of course, would create so much compression.
Yeah, for sure. Great explanation. Yep. As we look at carpal tunnel from the wrist down, which is where most people start, as we look at it from the wrist down, there's a space here, and most of us can feel it. And there is a nerve that runs in that groove. And the ligament that Lauren was talking about was the transverse carpal ligament. It runs from the thenar eminence over to the pisiform muscle, and you can see it. It looks almost like a tightrope. And then the median nerve runs underneath it and sits right in that groove. So, of course, the same could be true for massage therapists. It doesn't have to be people that sit at a keyboard, that any work or overwork of the thenar eminence or any type of hand work could absolutely create muscle strength. And it doesn't necessarily mean, though, that muscle strength means now ligament tension or an inability for that median nerve to sit well in the groove. And that was where I started asking questions way back in the day, 30 years ago. I was like, well, but we're designed to have that ligament and those muscles and that groove and that nerve. So just spontaneously, it becomes a problem in your hand if you make that grip with your hand. Now, as you mentioned, Lauren, as we've moved forward and we understand fascia being held in position for 49 minutes creates restrictions in the fascia. And, along the way, we know that held positions aren't favorable to the body because the body is designed to move, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. What we also know, though, as we've grown on in our anatomy training, is that 80% minimum of the pain in the body is referred from somewhere else. So that means there's at greatest chance a 20% possibility that something's going on right here in this area that they like to diagnose as carpal tunnel. So we got to look elsewhere. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look elsewhere. So
She
what
also
do you
apps at C4, C7, and C4, C5, and had surgery there. So it was all related.
It's like I paid you to say that. Absolutely. Okay, right. So most of the time, Western doctors, focus here because that's where the symptoms are. They don't understand the referral pain the way we do, just like we don't know how to do open heart surgery like they do. So it's not shade. It's just not in their lane. It's funny, I was at brunch on Sunday and someone was showing me their MRI report, a little light brunch conversation. And I said, oh, well, this is all, solvable, even with the findings on this MRI report. What we got to do for you is X, Y, and Z. And they're like, no, I'm going to wait to see what the doctor says. Oh, well, what has the doctor said already? Anti-inflammatories and rest. And I was like, not given these results, like you got to move here. No, the doctor's going to know. I'm like, I don't think the doctor's going to know. And 3 people at the table were like, how could you say the doctor wouldn't know? And I felt a little like outnumbered. And I said, well, the same way I wouldn't know how to do open heart surgery. They don't know how to do the other either. And I was like, oh, okay, different crowd. You go do that and you know where to find me 6 months from now when it doesn't work. But okay. So we know that referral pain is a real thing and Western doctors don't. It's just not what they know. And that's totally fine. Every once in a while, like I said, there were multiple handfuls of patients I worked on back in the day who all had carpal tunnel diagnoses. And every once in a while, one of them who'd had the surgery to splice this area and make more space for that nerve, it was the resolve that they needed. Well, now they had scar tissue and other things, though, too, interestingly enough, which is why they were still being seen by me. So did it really solve the problem? Well, that depends on how much the symptoms are. Most of the time, symptoms for carpal tunnel are, do you guys know what the symptoms are for carpal tunnel? Do you know what the symptoms are that someone's navigating?
Is one
Burning?
kind of burning pain.
Yep. What else?
Yeah, like nerve pain.
Nerve pain, which is?
Numbness, tingling, burning, like Gary said.
Yep, and one more. There's 4 primary nerve sensations. Pain in the palms can also, hey, Karen, I'm glad you're here. Numbness, tingling, burning, and shooting pain. Those 4 responses from the body always involve a nerve. Doesn't mean the nerve is impinged, doesn't mean it's pinched, doesn't mean, but except that a nerve is involved. Okay, well, that makes sense, right? Median nerve. It's kind of like how the doctors got to that. like, oh, well, it must be here then because it's the median nerve. Okay, cool. Except that we know, again, that symptoms, pain in the body and symptoms of pain are referred 80 to 90% of the time. So where is it referred from? Well, that would take us to follow the trail of the median nerve. So where is the median nerve, guys? Do you know? No. Okay, well, that's the magic sauce. So what we're going to do is follow the trail of the median nerve. And that, I'm going to share with you my happy picture in my book. So this is just the median nerve. Nerves themselves are an extension of the brain, right? They are in the body and are needed by the muscles so that the body can move. The nerves are what tell the muscles to contract. The brain is what tells the muscles to contract. And the nerve patterns, the neuroplastic patterns in the nervous system are what give us repetitive movement. Okay, like walking upstairs, holding a toothbrush, etc. So in this area of the body, I'm pointing at, this is still the median nerve, but in this area of the body, there are many, many more nerves. And I'm going to just open up that picture real quick, and show you. Look how many more there are. So you see they're different colors. They're gray, white, red, and every one of them goes down and feeds the upper extremity all the way down to the fingers. Now, this bundle of nerves right here, this is the median nerve. On this page is the median nerve, but the page I just showed you, all of the nerves coming out of the neck right here, the bundle of them together is called the brachial plexus. Brachial plexus is a bundle of nerves at this area of the body. They all come from the brain, but they start coming out into the musculoskeletal system that we navigate right here at the cervical spine between C2 and C7. Okay. Again, the median nerve kind of looks like the brachial plexus, but it's not. There's even more. The point is that anytime we have nerve innervation coming from the nerve root coming from the spine and innervating the rest of the soft tissue, the whole trail is responsible for that nerve sensation of numbness, tingling, burning, or shooting pain, or nothing. The whole trail is culpable, whole trail. Now, interestingly enough, if you had Googled what to do for carpal tunnel, if you weren't a magic practitioner, which I know you are, if you had Googled or your clients had Googled what to do for carpal tunnel, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, big major hospital systems say to do what? Do you know? What's their treatment remedy? Rhonda, rest.
There's a lot of stabilization, like everybody wears that
Wrist brace.
wrist brace. Thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
everybody's got the wrist brace.
Yep, let's brace it and make it not move. Body's designed to move, guys. Let's brace it and not move. Let's put ice on it because there's inflammation at the nerve. Let's tell the nerve, shh. And if that doesn't work, let's put a cortisone shot in there to really shut that bad boy up. And if that doesn't work, we might splice India because we don't know what else is causing it. Okay. These are not remedies down here. These are not remedies for anywhere along this nerve trail that could be a problem. It's hugely overlooked. And Lauren's client gave it away. Oh, I have this, I have this, I have this. Court reporting. I am compelled to believe it's in my wrist, it's in my wrist, except I have this little thing going on in C3 and C4. Right. That's the point. Because if you look at the median nerve is really interesting relative to the other nerves in the brachial plexus because of how many cervical discs it interplays with. Most of the others have less real estate that they cover, but the median nerve here actually is involved with C5, C6, C7, and T1. So literally half the neck, right? There's only 4 vertebrae in the neck. 2 of them we can't get to. The other 3 we can, that are involved with the median nerve, and then also T1. Okay, cool. So what does that tell us then? If it's compelling to think it's down here, but we know that there's a whole lot going on up here, what does that tell us then might be needed by the body? or might be causing it? Let's start with what might be causing it. What might be causing it then? If the median nerve root needs freedom of space up here, Gary?
Yeah, it might be thoracic outlet, which deals directly with that, or it could be some other compounding, because that nerve comes down. There could be nerve entrapment in the elbow. So you have to look at that whole chain of where the nerve goes.
Okay, great. I love it. Here's what I recommend. The way I work is rather than adding a diagnosis on top of a diagnosis on top of a diagnosis, or the probability, like, oh, well, this diagnosis might be caused by that thoracic outlet, which might be caused by that impinged at the elbow. Rather than sort of like steamrolling myself and pile driving diagnoses where I'm like, oh my God, there's just so many things to work on. I'm just going to go to the source. I'm going to go to that nerve root, and I'm going to see if there's anything in that nerve root that can be remedied. Because guess what? If there is thoracic outlet or impinged nerve at the elbow or carpal tunnel symptoms, they all come from the same place. From the nerve speaking, median nerve speaking, they all come from the same place. So why don't I just go there and find out what might be causing it? Now, here's the key. And this is where Lori's skeleton comes in really handy, because he's got all of his nerve root endings. Murph doesn't, but don't tell him, because he's feeling like he's not as valuable anymore, but he is. If the nerve roots are coming out of, can you guys see this?
Yeah, I can see.
Kind of see it like this. If the nerve roots are coming out in these little areas here, they're coming out between the transverse processes. Look at how close packed that is.
Yeah.
Look at how close packed that is, right? Nerves don't just get pissed off for any reason. They get ticked off when they don't have assured clear distance. When they don't have enough room to have their own, they start complaining. Numbness, tingling, shooting, or burning. Doesn't even mean the nerve has to be damaged for it to be, responding in that way. It just means it's saying, I don't have enough room here. I don't have enough room. I need more room. I deserve more room. I was promised more room. I paid for more room. I'm not getting enough room. I'd like more room, please. Okay. So if we know this about nerves, and we know what nerve we're working on and where it starts, which is up here in the cervical area, what kind of room might be taken away from the median nerve or any of the brachial plexus nerves up here in the cervical spine? What kind of room could be taken away here? How would the room that was delegated to the median nerve, how could it have been infringed upon? Based on what?
Forward.
Anterior head.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. Rhonda and I are like forward head posture. We're right on the same page.
You mean the forward head posture that everybody's in all the time, including me right now and half of you? Oh, that. Yep,
Lauren's
absolutely.
paralegal, I suspect, right?
Yeah. So isn't that interesting? We can point at the median nerve and a doctor can say it's absolutely impinged right here. And oh, yep, corp reporting. Yep, you were using your wrists. But they were also looking down the whole time they had their wrists in that position. So which is it then? The wrist typing or the forward head posture impinging on the nerve root? I don't know. It's at least a 50-50 chance, right? I'm not saying slice into people's necks instead of their wrists. I'm saying maybe we don't need to be slicing and dicing anybody. What else could be causing non-assured clear distance in the neck? What else could be causing this? This tight
Lateral
space.
flexion
What about lateral flexion, Rhonda? That's a
of
joint
the
action.
cervical spine or of the torso itself. If they're leaning to the left or the right, it would make the vertebral spaces smaller and slide.
Yeah, we call that diagonal patterning, right? So if one of their hips is high, they should be tipping over, but instead they take their cervical spine and correct for that to put them back in line with the horizon. So now one side of their cervical spine would have more contraction and less spacing there than the other. Sure. What else could cause it? What else could cause an interruption of real estate up here?
The muscles surrounding all of that.
What would they be doing? Because they're designed to be there. So what would they be doing that could disrupt?
I'm thinking like a contractile stress.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Kind of like what we just talked about with the diagonals.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Same
Yep.
thing.
What else? What else could cause an
I would,
interruption of real estate?
I would say breath patterns and any kind of breath pattern in which you are using accessory muscles, so much muscles of the chest, muscles of the neck that are creating compression throughout the neck.
Yep.
So dysfunctional breathing patterns, and also just adhesions that could be happening within the meningeal layers, within the skull, within the vertebral column surrounding the spinal cord. All of that, it could come from concussion, something like that, that would create those really deep fascial adhesions and then create that kind of compression.
Yeah. Yep. So lots of other things that your person's body could have experienced might be contributing. So I would say, like for concussion, for example, that's great, right? Awesome. Trauma to the head. More than it binding fascia, though, it would create a Golgi tendon organ response so that those muscles in the neck are now on lockdown.
Yeah.
And if you have an imbalanced posture, like what we talked about with Rhonda and Lori's share, an imbalanced posture with muscles on lockdown, that can definitely compound what's going on or what's not going on here for sure. And then Karen, I'm glad you're here. I don't know if I said hi to you yet. Karen's joining us in the chat. Narrowing of the C-spine space. Yes, absolutely. So if you know, like with Lauren's client, oh, I have narrowing discs, or I have a herniated disc, or I had surgery on my neck, or I have, some other pathology going on in my neck, that could absolutely be the interrupter of the nerve root. Most of the time when we get one pathology diagnosis, we also end up later getting another pathology diagnosis. It's kind of like why I said with your share, Gary, when you shared with us earlier, like I want to be careful not to pile drive myself with diagnoses because it's already inevitable in their body. If they had a herniated disc in their neck and all that was done for that was surgery and maybe 6 sessions of PT, what didn't get remedied is what caused that cervical spine to herniate in the first place, unless it was trauma. There's some mechanic or lack of mechanic or underlying pathology that caused that disc to herniate. That still isn't addressed under the knife. Post-surgical physical therapy doesn't resolve genesis of pain. That's not what physical therapy is designed for. Physical therapy is designed to restore joint action in a particular area. It's not designed to remedy lifestyle patterns or compensatory patterns or recruitment at the source of pain. That's not what it's for. Okay, cool. But that's what we do. At least in our method, that's what we do. So if we had narrowing of the canal, for example, and someone is like, oh yeah, well, it's degenerative, it runs in my family, there's nothing I can do about it, because that's what a doctor would say. But now I'm really dealing with carpal tunnel, dear practitioner, and I want you to work on my wrist. You know absolutely that it's 90% of the time it's coming from this area in their neck and the changes that are happening in the soft tissue here, especially given an underlying pathology. Now, I will say with underlying pathology, you got to be super smart and don't just go in and be a renegade. If you're not trained to do anything with those pathologies or you don't understand them fully, don't navigate them. Gary, you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, when Rhonda brought up forward head posture, then what hasn't been mentioned are the scalenes, and I don't know if they're involved in this or not.
Sure. And even here's how I'm going to share with you now how I work on it. I love that you guys know the anatomy. I love that you guys know the implications of underlying pathology and also posture. I am lit up right now, for sure. And we still don't want to navigate the results of carpal tunnel by addressing each one of those muscles one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. If I have forward head posture, you guys who have been here for a while and we've talked about the axial skeleton and patterning and alignment and all the things. If I have forward head posture, is that all that I have by way of misalignment? No. So I could do all that I want to deep tissue those scalene muscles. And by the way, I had someone almost vomit on my treatment table once by navigating her scalene muscles. it's not easy to do for you or the patient for sure. You could though, you could stretch their neck, you could do passive assistive stretch, you could PNF their neck, you could deep tissue their neck. The problem though is that those muscles got tight because of forward head posture, and we haven't resolved the forward head posture. What causes the forward head posture and where does it come from? Because we all just nodded when we said, oh yeah, there's absolutely somewhere else that's affected if forward head posture is present. Right, what else is present? And where does it come from? And this is where I love my method, because I could also spin on these things. Again, remember, I was introduced to carpal tunnel way early in my game. And I was like, do I go brachial plexus and all the muscles of the accessory breathing muscles in the neck and do I do that? That could be here for a long time. Or do I go somewhere else because it's referred? What do I do? Well, now I know after all these years, sacrum centric, baby. If the sacrum's not aligned, and that's included with someone who has forward head posture, I could work on forward head posture till the cows come home. It starts and ends at the sacrum. So now I'm not even near the wrist or the elbow or the thoracic outlet or the neck. Now I'm working on their sacrum, but I'm doing it in tandem with remedying the pattern that they have of forward head posture, so that then I have access to the nerve root at C5, 6, 7, and T1. And it's in that order. You could work these muscles again all the time for the whole session. They can come back again in 2 weeks and say, Rhonda, I felt great for like 3 days. And you could work them again. And 2 weeks later, they come back and they're like, Gary, whatever you did last time gave me 4 days of relief. I want that again. And Perry's going to be like, yeah, this is boring. And back to our beginning conversation, right? Like, here we are at Groundhog's Day one more time, because they think with the diagnosis, it's fixed. The doctors think that as long as we can placate and reduce symptoms of nerve response, we're good because we're avoiding surgery. Physical therapy is not going to navigate what we navigate. And now the client also believes the best I can do is 4 days of relief. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. You can reverse some diagnoses by getting to the root of what's causing it. A diagnosis is just a fixed list of symptoms. It's not a death sentence. It's not an I am statement where it's permanent. It's not like that. Some of them, yes, but most of them, like the ones we've been talking about the last few weeks, definitely not. Definitely not. Is there work to do with the muscles in their neck? And Lori and I just taught a functional movement class this weekend. We talked about this 10-pound bowling ball being held up by this dainty little neck and needing this shelf called the shoulders, the clavicle, the traps, and everything in between. The shelf has to be level for the bowling ball not to roll off of it. It's a systematic approach. I got to make sure this is level and these are organized and this is in the right position. All three have to happen. So is there work to be done here with someone who has chronic carpal tunnel-esque symptoms? For sure. And I'm not going to navigate all of this if they're sitting with their tail tucked under. It's not going to happen because of the way the four curves balance each other in the body. So I don't know if I'm going to check in with you guys here in a minute. I don't know if this sounds like, oh, that's so clear, I know exactly where to go, or if I actually just made the puzzle bigger and make it feel like there's even more to navigate. It can go both ways. So I'd love to hear from you. What's coming up for you now as you're following the trail back to the genesis of the carpal tunnel symptoms? What's coming up for you? I want to make sure I've poured into you in a way that's effective, that you have something to do with it this week.
I don't know. It seems like all the symptoms is that I've been focusing in my treatment is fix the alignment, try to correct the alignment, and then ask them, figure out where the problem is.
Okay. And what about the information I shared with you today, Perry? Does that add to what you're already doing? Does it create more clarity for you or no?
As to what I'm doing, I go to the source, not just the symptom.
Right. Always go to the source, not the symptom. And finding the source is the work that's ours to do, for sure. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? Is it making it sound like a clearer path or more complex? Lauren's like, I'm not missing this. I'm in my car now, but I'm still coming back for more. I love that. I love it. Anybody else have any thoughts on how we just trailed that back?
Well, I guess that I can see how a tucked under sacrum would cause a forward head posture, but I wouldn't know exactly what to do for it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Rhonda. And I've said this before, if I could teach you all the patterns in the method in a Tuesday training, I would absolutely do that. It takes us a bit of time to get through them all. But I think the big key is, and obviously you're welcome at any time to come and learn that with us. But I think the key is just seeing it to begin with, right? Like if you can go from doing deep tissue work to someone's thenar eminence and doing whatever you want to do to strip, fascia and bound tissues in the wrists from someone who presents with carpal tunnel. If you can graduate from that to going up to the brachial plexus, recognizing what might be causing the impairment here, and then tying it back to the axial skeleton, that's 50% of the solution, Rhonda. Right. So like, I hear you, you're like, I want to know what to do. We all want to know what to do. I love and appreciate that. And also just recognize though, that being able to trace it back to the source is oftentimes what's missing. Otherwise, we're just throwing more tools and more tricks and more techniques at whatever the symptoms are and like hoping for a solution by the end of the session. And that's not a plan. Hope's not a treatment plan that works. Sometimes you get lucky, but it's not really the one that works. So you just want to work on, take a note in your notebook. You want to work on repatterning and optimizing the axial skeleton. That's what's calling to you next. And that's great. For some of us, it's like, wow, I actually didn't even remember the brachial plexus. I got to go back to my anatomy and like just figure that out again. No problem. It's just know where you're at and know that there's more. There's always going to be more for us for sure. And so wherever you're at is where you should, I believe, I don't want to shit on you, but wherever you're at is where I think you want to start filling in the gaps. Okay. Anybody else? I know I ran kind of fast today. Karen is in the chat. Hold on, let me open up that chat, Karen. Let me see your note. Hey, Joshua, it's good to see you. Karen says, hey, I've always learned to treat the whole path of the nerve. Perfect. So then the question is, do you have a resource book with you if you don't remember all the nerves? It's not mandatory, guys, that you memorize the nerves. It's, I believe, more mandatory to have a good resource with you. Kind of like I held up the Sig and Adams book, right? Like find the median nerve. If you don't remember where it is, that's okay. Just find it and then follow that path. And then the question is, Rhonda's question ties into Karen's share. When you treat the whole nerve path, what do you treat? What does treating the nerve path mean? Treating it how, right? That's what we want to know. Like, what's the how next? For today, and what I share with you most of our time on Tuesday training is understanding where you want to be focused. I trust you all to have skill and technique available to you, or you wouldn't be seeing clients. You'd be waiting tables. So, and maybe you are, and that's okay. But my point is, I know you're already creating results for folks because you're here. So you already have some techniques available to you. The strategic thinking and how to come up with where I'm supposed to work is where I really shine as an educator. I have great tools that I use every day, and I think that they are the best and that you should only use those for sure. And you already have tools as well that can create results. But if you don't know what you're creating the results for or what part to be directing your skill toward, then the skill and the tool is, rendered useless if it's not being used the right way. It's like using a wrench to try to hang a picture. You need a hammer for that, right? So it's not that the tool's wrong. It's just that if you don't know where to point it, you can't get the job done. Okay, any other questions on carpal tunnel? Any other questions about it or clarity that you want on it, Lori?
No, I think it's just, it goes back to messaging to our, and Gary says education of our clients, because they're sure it's here, right? They're sure,
Mhm.
like my guy from last week for plantar fasciitis. I told you I'd stay tuned, everyone. He rolled it on the ice page, and he's like, I feel better. And in my heart, I'm like, oh, I'm glad you feel better, is what I said.
Yeah.
But yes, of course. And that's not gonna, like, it's temporary. It's a temporary fix for him.
Mm.
Yeah, so messaging, like they feel it here, and it it doesn't even originate up in here. This is where the brachial plexus is, but to look at the sacrum.
Well, carpal tunnel could be resolved at the neck. Let's say it's not forward head posture. Let's say it's narrowing of the spine, right? It's possible.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if it's not there, what do you do about it? And if it is forward head posture, it's not coming from the head solely. So that was the takeaway for that
Right.
segment of sharing. And as far as messaging to clients, it's the same as my brunch conversation. They were interested enough for me to read the MRI report, but then somehow the conversation stopped with my professional opinion about what to do about it. So, okay, there's just a disconnect there. Now, they're not a paid client. I'm at brunch. That's okay. They know that I'm available. They know that I'm here. They know enough to know that I could read the MRI report, I guess, unless they were just sort of showing off about what the MRI report showed. And these big words sound scary to people who are not anatomically based. I don't know what the intention was for that. But when it's a client and they come in, they just want it resolved. They don't really want to hear a whole anatomy lesson. They want it resolved. So if for today the symptoms went away, in their mind, it's resolved. What we want to be careful to do is not make them wrong for the choice that they made, because they're also still in your care. So they're still making good choices. They just want the pain to go away. Remember, we said at the very beginning, like, I remember the thoughts that came up when I was in pain. Our clients have them too, heart-centered. So heart-centered for the win. And in those instances, just dropping some seeds is plenty. As long as the seeds aren't, I'm going to drop this seed right here that you're wrong, and this will come back to haunt you. That's not dropping a seed. That's being shitty. But you could drop a seed and say, I'm so glad that your pain went away for today. If it should come back, I have other ideas beyond the ice water bottle. If it should come back, right? Because you don't have a crystal ball, you don't know, and you don't hope that it does come back just so you could be right. So while they're suffering, that's not really what you're hoping for. I know that. We talked about heart space at the beginning of our time together today. So just drop some seeds. Just drop some seeds, which is exactly what I said to my friend. I handed him back his phone and I said, I'm so glad that I know all of this can be resolved. I'm positive it can be. He's like, oh, I already feel better. I'm like, and you should feel 100%. This should be a conversation of the past. And if it's not, let me know, see if I can support you in any way. Oh yeah, sure, of course. Thanks, Gina. Yeah, great. Today, he's not on board with my treatment plan. He's on his own mission. Cool. Today he feels good though. That's what he said. Oh, I feel so much better. All right, great. All they want is for it to go away. They don't care that you know better or that another doctor did. They don't care. They don't. They want it to go. So just seed plant in there. Just seed plant in there. They know where to find you. They were in a session with you when they said it. You're good. If you don't say something and you just get your energy all balled up in a knot, well, remember what we also said at the top of the hour. Now you're adding that energy into the room, and they now suddenly feel a little off and they don't know why, and they won't be back. They also don't know why about that either, because your energy sucks, right? Like, make sure you're heart-centered, loving, gushing on them, appreciating them, trusting that they're going to be resolved. Add that into the mix and they'll come back. Lauren says, today was so great. You're speaking my language. I'm so glad I logged on. I'm glad you logged on too. I'll continue to connect with you, Gina. Thank you for your time. My absolute pleasure. Karen, one teacher said you treat 50-50, 50% what the patient wants and 50% what the patient needs. Treatment for skeptical patients. Oh, that's the treatment for skeptical patients. I think I understood. Just to get them to buy in, like what you're saying. Yeah. It's also like, I would take it, I love that, Karen, and I would take it just a step further. I really grind this into my mastery practitioners. What you don't want to be ever is arrogant or placating, because we get a lot of that in the Western world, and we are the opposite. So I'm not just going to placate someone and be like, there, I'll rub your sore little hand, no problem. But then I'm going to really do what's right. Right? Even if you have a little bit of that energy, I'm being a little dramatic right now, but even if you have a little bit of that energy coming into the treatment setting, it's still condescending. The energy is not heart-centered. The energy is arrogance. And so again, we're leading from the heart, right? Heart math for the win, heart resonance for the win. So what we want to say is, I have a treatment, we want to be in partnership with them. What we want to say is something that's being in partnership with them. I have a treatment plan that I fully believe is going to work. I also need your body to weigh in on it. Are you okay if we do it this way? I know you came to me for your wrist today. I'm also fully focused on resolving that. I have a hunch, though, that it's coming from somewhere else. Are you okay if we start there? And if they're like, then you haven't gained their trust. It's not that we're going to placate them. They're there. I'm going to just do what you want me to do, and then I'm going to do the real thing. It's that you get to now establish more trust with them. That's feedback for you, right? And if they say, you know what, and I hope that every one of you has this with every session. My patients say this all the time. I'm just telling you what I think you need to know. You do your thing. Okay. Like, they fully trust that I'm going to find it and resolve it. That's what you want, right? You don't want to have to do 50-50, because that means that they're actually only sort of trusting the process. You're the process. You are creating the process. You want to be able to be fully confident, fully in your authority, fully knowledgeable, and fully connected to the person you're serving. And that, my friends, will let you treat 100% of what's needed, instead of having to split the hairs between time, 50% of what they want, 50% of what I want, and then, you're on basically two different teams. That's just what I would add to that, Karen. With full respect to your teacher, I think we can grow from there. I think it's a great starting point, and I think we can grow from there as well. Okay, my friends, an hour goes by fast, as always. I do appreciate all of you and your contribution to this conversation. I also appreciate how many of you are navigating carpal tunnel, and I hope that you'll come back and share with us your successes and your wins. So thank you for contributing to the conversation and asking good questions. Yes, it all starts at the sacrum, and it might just be the nerves and nerve roots in the neck on this one, okay? So make sure that you decide in the moment with the body that you're working with, okay? I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the magical work that you're doing in the world, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.